Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Today, we are going to talk about Casey White. You may remember that name from a little thing that happened last year where a jail employee by the name of Vicky White in Lauderdale, Alabama, helped Casey White, who was serving a 75-year sentence and was supposed to be on trial for murder, escape from confinement and all of the things that happened thereafter. So we're going to talk about that down at the beach. I'll see you down there. So Casey White was a felon. He was a home invader. He was serving a 75-year sentence, and he was scheduled to be tried for the murder of a woman by the name of Ridgway when he met and sort of, convinced a jail employee, Vicky White, that he was madly in love with her and that they should run away together. I hope I don't want to sound sexist here. It has happened several times in cases that I'm aware of where a male prisoner has seduced a female guard. It happened at Western Missouri Correctional Facility several years ago where a felon, a murderer, convinced a guard to get him out of jail, and they ran off and were living in a travel trailer in Texas when the U.S. Marshals showed up and hauled them back to Missouri. The woman who was involved in that was married at the time that she ran off with her felon lover. And as a result of that, she wound up getting divorced and she wound up having to spend, I believe it was close to 3 years in prison. So it didn't work out very well for her. And of course, the guy who was, in jail for murder, they tried him for escape. But if you're already in there for a life sentence, having another, 10 or 15 years tacked onto it probably doesn't really bother you that much. And in this case, Casey White basically seduced. He was in his 30s, I believe, and Vicky White, I believe, was 56 at the time of her death. And he convinced her to sell her house, fire sale prices. She got the cash, they took the cash, and they ran with it. And of course, nobody was paying attention, nobody at the jail, because this person was sort of an executive level officer, and she was able to do all of this sub rosa, and as a result, they were able to make a clean getaway. And they drove up to Evansville, Indiana. They rented a $50 a night hotel room and tried to figure out what to do next. As sort of a helpful tip to other people planning jailbreaks or helping felons plan jailbreaks, it's a good idea to have your plan worked out before you break out of jail, as opposed to putting it together on the fly, because you go up against every federal law enforcement agency, but most especially, you go up against the U.S. Marshals, and those guys don't play around. And that's exactly what happened here. They went up to Evansville, Indiana, I believe it was, and they had a sharp-eyed cop spotted the vehicle that they had obtained and called in reinforcements. And when they tried to leave, they were in a car chase. Eventually, the car got run off the road. And I suspect because she could not endure the shame of having to return to Alabama and face the people who had loved and respected her, Vicky White took her own life. That is a very sad ending to a very sad part of her life. It's a terrible thing when people take their own lives. And that's what happened. So the reason I bring all of that up and provide all of that history in the event you don't remember it from last year is because the trial is going to be coming up fairly shortly. I believe it's in May or June of this year. And Court TV has indicated that they might want to transmit that or, live stream that. And if they do, it will be an interesting case for a number of reasons. Probably the most important of those is the jurisdictional question. So Alabama has a statute on murder that involves felony murder.
Felony murder jury instruction. The defendant is charged with murder. A person commits the crime of murder if he or she commits or attempts to commit, and in this case it will be C, escape in the first degree, and in the course of and in furtherance of the crime that he or she is committing or attempting to commit, or in immediate flight therefrom, he, she, or another participant, if there be any, causes the death of any person. To convict, the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt each of the following. A person, in this case Vicky White, is dead. The defendant committed or attempted to commit, number 3, escape in the first degree. In the course of and in furtherance of the crime that the defendant was committing, or in the immediate flight therefrom, he or she or another participant, if there be any, caused the death of any person, in this case Vicky White, by self-inflicted gunshot wound. So it's actually sort of recursive here in that he's being charged with her killing herself in the furtherance of his escape, which is certain to confuse a jury, and it may even confuse an appellate court. And then there are some specific things down here. A participant is one who would be legally accountable as being the one procured, induced, or caused, or the one doing the procuring, inducing, or causing of another to commit an offense, or aiding and abetting the commission of the offense. So here, she was very clearly aiding and abetting the commission of the escape. And again, all of these are going to be, well, the ones that are appropriate are going to be read to the jury, and that's what's going to determine whether or not Casey White gets convicted of felony murder. Now, whether he's guilty of that will be up to the jury, but I think the biggest question, much bigger question, is the one on jurisdiction.
And the felony murder statute says, if you engage in any one of the listed crimes, and escape in the first degree is a listed crime, and indeed he has been charged with escape in the first degree, and as a result, someone gets killed in that escape or flight therefrom, then that is murder. It's usually second degree murder, but it's murder, and you can be convicted of that. So nobody in Alabama died. Only Vicky White died, and she died in Indiana. It is generally thought that jurisdiction on a murder is at the scene of the murder, assuming that you can, determine what the scene of the murder is. There are federal statutes that can be brought into play. And certainly in this case, interstate flight to avoid prosecution would be one of the many statutes that Casey White violated. He could be tried in federal court for that. But the murder or the death of Vicky White by her own hand in Indiana presents a bit of a problem, a jurisdictional problem for the prosecutors in Alabama, because the death did not occur in Alabama. And a death in Indiana should, in most cases, be prosecuted in Indiana. How the court in Alabama will ultimately deal with that, I don't know. But if it allows the prosecution for felony murder to go forward, then my guess would be that even if he's convicted, that will be overturned on appeal. And mostly on the jurisdictional ground, because I do think that even though she killed herself, it happened during the flight from the escape, which is the predicate felony. It happened during flight from that, and as a result, he would ordinarily be on the hook, again, if the death had occurred in Alabama, but it did not. Again, it'll be interesting to see how the court deals with that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that play out. Well, that's what I have for you today. I hope you have found this interesting, educational, and if you would, If you have any comments, please leave them in the comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. Appreciate all of you who have made thoughtful and insightful comments the last couple of weeks. And I very much appreciate people who, when they disagree with me, do so respectfully. There are several out there who have disagreed with me, and I think that's fine. I welcome the disagreement. You know, more views and more viewpoints are a good thing. So thank you for doing that. Hopefully today you'll have an opportunity to do something nice for someone. If you do, please take advantage of that. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe. You know all the stuff we ask you to do. Have a marvelous day, and I'll catch you down here at the beach next time.
If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.